All right, what's going on, folks? Boxing Source here live, and yeah, we are talking about the results of the unified super middleweight championship fight between Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith. And we just saw a methodical um, beatdown, basically, of Callum Smith. The judges, two of the judges gave Canelo Alvarez 11 rounds. One judge gave Callum Smith 3 of the 12 rounds. And yeah, I thought that was like fairly generous there. Um, I pretty much saw, Callum Smith winning 1 round at best. Um, you could probably give him 2. Shout out to DT3 in the building. What's happening? What's good? What's going on? We are, talking about the fights here, or basically this fight between Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith. And when I kind of like broke down this particular fight, I was looking at the keys to the fight. And, the keys to the fight were at least for Callum Smith that he had to be very active with his jab. He had to be able to move side to side and not move laterally. And you didn't see any side to side movement at all from Callum Smith. Actually, I just saw him basically go straight forward and straight back, straight forward and straight back. He only moved over to the side once that I noticed, one time in the entire fight. That's it. Just moved once the entire fight. And that just can't work against someone, like a Canelo Alvarez. But I want to get in. But representing the NBBC, DT3, the Boom Man, God Squad in the building. What's up?
What's going on with the source, man? What to do with the business is, man. It was a good fight. It was a typical what I thought was gonna happen. I think Canelo kind of carried him because I think he could have got him out of there, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't want to give no shit to Callum because the man showed some toughness tonight. He showed
Yeah.
that it was a lot of punches that a lot of other fighters would have said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here, I'm going down. I don't want to take this no more." Callum said, "Nah, I'm gonna stand here with this man, and I'm gonna go to full 12." And I'm gonna take this beating like a man. And hats off to Callum Smith and his whole team for even allowing him to continue to take that beating because
Yeah.
Canelo put on a clean.
Yeah, because there was like one point either after the end of the 9th or the 10th when Callum's trainer said, "Yo, I'm giving you one more round. Give you one more
You
round.
heard
Let's see
that
what you're
too?
gonna do."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard that too. I was like, yeah. And then Callum just turned it up a little bit. And I felt
Hmm.
like in those spots where he turned up, I felt like if he'd have fought that fight the whole fight, he would have been fine. See, the issue is when people say about Canelo and his skills is what it is. It's true. But Callum being as tall as he was, he should not have fought a tall fight. He should have started bending his knees, getting low, because Canelo, that's how Canelo is going to work you. He's going to be lower, he's going to slip punches, and his
Yeah.
counters are just freaking retarded. So, I mean, I think Callum should have kind of just made it, in a sense, kept his distance. And what I didn't like that Callum allowed is he let Canelo measure him.
Yeah.
You never as a taller guy let the smaller dude measure you, and
Hmm.
that was where you could see the skill set is totally different between the two.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, Callum Smith just started off with singular shots, a lot of singular shots. Didn't double up the jab at any point. And didn't get off the line. Like if you're gonna be the taller man, you got to be able to be more active with the jab, be aggressive, and then get off the line. Because the thing is, like you said with Canelo, he slips punches, but he doesn't like come in and like bob and weave and things like that. Like he's almost like a Tyson or something. He just sees you and he just walks right towards you, right towards you. And if he slips a punch, then he can get closer. But if you don't move, then yeah, he's gonna get into you and work your body or work with some power shots. You know, on the inside, and I just didn't see anything from Callum Smith to have Canelo reset. That was it. Like all you had to do if you're gonna be 6'3" and use your entire 6'3" frame, make Canelo reset his approach, and Callum Smith just failed to do that the entire fight.
Yeah, and I feel like what Callum Smith could have did to make it even more to his favor would have been not being afraid to miss a couple of jabs and control the distance. I think that's what another thing, Callum. I mean, you have that frame, and you did not control the distance. Canelo controlled the distance. Like he literally dictated, controlled everything of the fight. And I feel like Callum Smith should have used his height and his range to control the distance and use Canelo's counters against him. And that's something that Floyd Mayweather, and people do not watch. I notice all you fighters, when y'all get that Canelo call, y'all don't watch what Floyd did to him. Y'all don't watch that fight. Y'all don't watch it. And I get it. He's not that same fighter. But what I'm saying is his tendencies, Canelo is a natural counter puncher. That's what he want to do. He want to counter punch. That's what he wants to do. Now, granted, you got to understand, if he's fighting me, I'm 6'3". He's going to want to slip. He's going to want to do all these things to counter punch me. He's going to want to do all. I seen what he did with Danny Jacobs. So I could use that against him. I could use my jab, wait for him to throw that looping hook, pull back and counter with a straight right, or maybe even a left hook of my own. It's a way to use Canelo's style against him. It's just nobody has the skill set to really take advantage of it, or they really afraid of getting hit by Canelo because Canelo counters are stupid, and he does have enough pop to knock out pretty much everybody at middleweight. Everybody, you can't say Canelo can't knock out everybody at middleweight because he can't.
Yeah, he can't. Like, I mean, he basically crushed the crusher at 175 pounds. So yeah, anybody at middleweight could pretty much catch that thing and get knocked out. And you almost saw that here against Callum Smith. And you make a very good point. Like, people got to be not afraid to counter a counter puncher. Like, I didn't really see that coming out of Callum Smith. Like, okay, I know what's coming. But I need to have something after that to make Canelo respect me. And at no point did Canelo respect Callum Smith and what he did in that ring.
At all. It was like he didn't have. It was like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Okay, Callum, that's nice. Oh, that's cute. That's
nice.
You know what I mean? Let me put some of this. Let me put some pepper on this real quick. You got some good salt. You got some good sugar and some salt. But let me give you some of this pepper. And I got that good Mexican cayenne jalapeno pepper for your ass.
And red peppers and put some paprikas on that joint. You know what I'm saying? And it was crazy because at the last round, like, there was at one point when Canelo was coming up and he was, either throwing a jab or throwing, like, I think or a left hook. And Callum Smith was going to do what he usually does, is set people up for a counter punch. And when he set up for that counter punch, either he missed and blocked, or he tried to do it and couldn't do it because Canelo just saw the thing coming. And both of them were like, oh, shit. And yeah, he was like, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So everything looked predictable out of Callum Smith in this particular fight, man. And there was like one comment midway through the fight from Demetrius Andrade. And he said, like, yo, it just looks like Callum Smith is there just to, get through the fight. Like he's glad to be there or something like that. You know what I mean?
And he just happy to get that Canelo check.
Yeah, I think Sergio Moore agreed with him.
I mean, it was the same way I felt about the Ford fight that happened earlier on the card. I think the guy that came in, he didn't come in to win the fight. He just came in because it was the opportunity to get a fight on a good platform for him, and he's just there to show up to be on that platform to say he probably was on it. And I think it was, it's kind of crazy to say that about a guy who won the Super Series and the Muhammad Ali Trophy. It's kind of hard to say that about a guy who did that. But right. I think in this situation, I think he probably did he didn't show up to really win. I think he was probably already intimidated. He already knew what he was getting into. And I just think he really just showed up for a check. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he could have did more. I think he could have. I think he could. The way he could have prepared, it could have been better. I mean, you fight Canelo Alvarez. I mean, I'm fighting Canelo Alvarez. This dude is a counter puncher. All right, he's fought Danny Jacobs. His last few opponents, he knocked out or stopped. And he's or embarrassed or whatnot. So I got to study this dude. Okay, the last person to ever, or the only person to ever beat him was Floyd Mayweather. What did he do? Oh, he moved on him. He used Canelo's counters against him because he knew he wanted to counter him. That's why when he had Canelo against the ropes, all he did was just jab him to the body. And also,
Yep.
what people fail to realize in the Floyd Mayweather fight is Floyd went to Canelo's body consistently in that fight. Nobody does that. But what do we know?
I mean, but that punch to the body, jab to the body is a very great weapon, but it's like underutilized by a lot of fighters. And like Callum-Smith could have used that, but nope, he didn't do that at all in this particular fight. And that, just really hurt him, going over the course of the fight. And, I also didn't see him like slip, Canelo's jab, but once. Like he did like something where he slipped and then tried to come back, but outside of that, he was like just backing up. Like how Wilder was backing up against Tyson Fury in the fight in February. That's pretty much what Callum Smith was doing, and you just can't do that against a guy that's very forceful with every shot that he throws in Canelo Alvarez. Man, that just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, everything with Canelo. When he throws now, I mean, ever since because I really felt like, I mean, we saw it in the fight. I mean, Callum-Smith does not hit harder than Sergey Kovalev, period. He doesn't. And I said that. I was telling people that. I was like, y'all see what he did to Kovalev? I was like, oh, Callum his height and he's younger. And I was like, yeah. He might have his reflexes might be better. He might have a little more speed or whatever. But the power,
Right.
you can't tell me that Callum-Smith hits harder than Sergey Kovalev. You really can't convince me of that. There's nothing you could tell me to make me think that everything about Callum-Smith is stronger and faster than Kovalev. Nah, Kovalev jab is just no.
Mm-hmm.
No. So it's just I feel like he just didn't have it. So I knew Canelo was gonna go in there and really I thought he was gonna just get him out of there the same way he did Kovalev, but no. What Callum-Smith showed is that his movement is what saved him. Kovalev was too stationary. He couldn't move.
Yeah.
He couldn't move.
Yeah.
So I think the movement saved Callum.
Well, I thought it did like on the inside because when Canelo was trying to, break in on the inside, throwing body shots and things like that, like he was able to either slip or just see them punches and block them. And anytime he like went upstairs or when Canelo went upstairs while Callum was on the ropes, he kind of like seen that and was slipping them. So that pretty much saved him a little bit. But also we kind of like saw the weapon of the uppercut, being shown in this fight too. And I did see Canelo get hit with a couple of them uppercuts, but I mean, they just didn't build off that momentum, man.
He just didn't know what he was gonna do. But he was like, "Okay, I got him with the uppercut. Good." It was like he was happy with catching him with that one punch. Like he was okay with catching him with that one punch, and I felt like he needed to do a lot more. Your work rate got to be better because Canelo. At this particular point, I think he's just kind of like a one punch. He might throw two at a time, but I think with his cardio, his style, he's more of a one punch guy. He's just like he slips, counter, and he's becoming more of a masterful counter puncher with the way he uses his defense to create his offense, which is also something that I saw with Triple G. The other night, he was actually using his defense to set up his offense, which is something I've never seen him do, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But the fact that Canelo is type of fighter to use his defense more to set up his offense instead of using your offense to set up his offense, because he was never really a slip and slide type of fighter really in the beginning. He just became that after Floyd embarrassed him. So now that he's more of a slip and slide type of fighter, to me, I really don't see nobody really standing up to Canelo right now at 100 in the middleweight division. Period. Right now, not right now.
Yeah, no one at middleweight right now, no. And the way that this thing is going at super middleweight, um, like I really don't see a fighter there at super middleweight that could do something that could, get the respect of Canelo Alvarez. The only one that might be able to do that to me right now is David Benavidez, but David Benavidez has to, be disciplined enough to stay at super middleweight instead of getting overweight and stuff like that, missing weight. I think it got, one other guest on here that's listening in. MG, I pretty much may know who this is, but wanted to get his reaction to this Canelo Callum-Smith fight if he's able to join in.
What's going on, Jay? Yeah, you know who this is. It's Mike Grady.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Not much. Yeah, I mean, it was a fairly routine night for Canelo. I think early Canelo had something to look out for, like he had to be a bit responsive. But then after round 3, 4, it just was pretty routine. I think that his shots that he was landing, it just made Callum shell up, and he pretty much just wanted to not get hit with the bigger shots.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I think he's pretty tough, Callum Smith, but I think Demetrius Andre got a point. They do very well with matchmaking Canelo with the right type of fighter. And so I heard y'all mention the other gentleman mentioned that he don't know, or whoever mentioned it, that, who would give Canelo problems. With that being said, the matchmakers give Canelo people who got slow feet.
Yeah.
And so while, let's say, for example, Caleb Plant might not win a fight and may not have the power to keep Canelo off of him, the fact that he got semi-fast feet would give Canelo problems. And if he does have the power to keep Canelo off of him and or the skills to keep Canelo off of him, it would definitely give Canelo problems. And you see Canelo hadn't fought that style since years. The style of the I'm sorry?
Since the Sandy Lara.
Yeah, it's been years since he fought that style, which again goes to matchmaking. I don't know if y'all watched a little interview with Andre and Chris Mannix. Chris Mannix kind of annoying. He's annoying to me.
He a company man.
He's definitely a company man. And granted, Canelo is the pound for pound #1 fighter to me. Errol Spence coming in a strong #2. And then after that, I would give it to Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury didn't actually cheat, then you give it to Tyson Fury. If he did cheat, if he did cheat, you just got to put asterisk by his name. If they do Barry Bonds and Mark McGrath like that, we gotta put asterisk by Tyson Fury too. But I'm just saying, But yeah, they keep him away from those type of fighters. I think Triple G should stay away from Canelo for this next fight, because the fight that I saw with Triple G, I know you were staying away from it, DT3, but I don't know. Triple G seems like something is up with his win now. It seems like he can go to rounds, but it seems like he just presses. So like there's something visibly when he going through the fight, like he breathes, and he does a good job of breathing and making sure he can go through the motions with breathing. But he just looked like he just be like tired, and then he breathe and try to just get that next little win. I think that's
Triple G punches in moderation. let's just be understandable of Triple G's style. He punches. He's not a brawler. He's a boxer puncher, and he's older. And he showed that he has win issues in the Deverenchenko fight. I saw that he had a little fatigue issues in that fight. I mean, he doesn't get the fatigue where he gets hit with stupid, unnecessary punishment, but he does show signs of fatigue. He also showed signs of fatigue in both Canelo fights, late in the fights, but he also showed the fact that he can't push through when he hits the fatigue factor. So I agree with you on the fact that he does show signs of fatigue, but he does find ways to push through that and still maintains the same type of punch output, the same type of power. You don't never see him. Have you ever seen Triple G's power decreasing over time, even though you see him getting tired? Nah. Punch output is still the same. Power is still the same. So the guy is still dangerous, even though he is fatigued. And I still say that regardless of what we may see of Triple G, he's still dangerous. He's still dangerous. He's still not a guy you want to get hit by. Period. He's not a guy you want to sit up there and punch with. He's a perfect guy to sit in the pocket. I mean, come on now. Who really wants to stand in there with in the pocket with Triple G aside from a Jamal Charlo? Boo Boo Andre ain't finna stand in the pocket with Triple G. And Billy Joe Saunders not finna stand in the pocket with Triple G. Now, Jamal Charlo is standing in the pocket with Triple G. He'll stand there with him. Yeah. But the other two fighters I mentioned, they not finna do that. They don't want them problems.
You're right. My thing is with Triple G's win, it's going to be exactly what you said, where he needs it to go to another level. Very similar to what's the dude who had a lackluster fight, black guy who fought Philadelphia fighter, and he looked real flat the whole fight.
Against Smith? Against Joe Smith this year?
No, he fought Canelo also. Daniel Jacobs. It's it's like with Daniel Jacobs in his last fight, he looked very flat, like it looked like he didn't have any more to give.
Yeah,
like,
against
you fight
Rosario.
Rosario.
Yeah,
it's like you fight you to a certain level, and then some fighters know that, okay, this is the only level that he got. Let me crank it up some. Let me take it to another level on him and see if he can survive this. I don't think Triple G will be able to do that when some other fighter sees that this is his only speed, and he won't get past it. You're like I think if he fights Canelo again and Canelo wants to exert himself more in a round instead of just doing the whole pop, and going back and forth, he wouldn't be able to keep up with it. He being Triple G.
I think Triple G, I agree with that. I said that as well. I don't think Triple G will be able to deal with a volume puncher. The thing is would you be able to deal with Triple G's accurate ass jab, which feels like a right hand, and would you be able to deal with just his studying punching power, because the man can freaking punch and he's accurate when he throws his punches. That is the only telltale thing. And until we see somebody be able to pretty much, because we still haven't seen nobody thoroughly dominate him. We've seen a fighter give him a good show, which is in the sense of Deverenchenko. I'm not talking about Canelo. I'm talking about in the sense of other fighters aside from Canelo. The only fighter aside from Canelo to really give him like some work was Deverenchenko, in my opinion. So I think any fighter that's going to really throw volume punches and that can deal with his punching power, those are the fighters that'll give him problems. But as far as him beating any top level opposition, being able to, he could still do that with the skill set that he has now. Until we see him decline with his power and being able to absorb punishment, I think as long as he could do that, Triple G is still a dangerous guy in the middleweight division.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean he's there in the middleweight division, like you were saying, he may be dangerous, but like I said this last night, I'm like, look, I need to see Gennady Golovkin fighting some other guys. I don't need this Chris Mannix dude talking about having a third fight between Golovkin and Canelo. Like let's move on from that. Let's have some other fights happen in the middleweight and super middleweight divisions to mix things up. I know there was like one mention of possibly having Gennady Golovkin fighting Jaime Munguia, which is fairly interesting given that Jaime Munguia was a potential opponent for Gennady Golovkin years ago when the rematch was initially scheduled between Canelo and Golovkin, and we had the whole little mess with Canelo, and Golovkin ended up fighting Veins Martirosyan. So him against Jaime Munguia could be a fairly interesting battle if that does happen next year. But for me, I just feel like there needs to be some type of unification fight happening at 160 pounds. And, you know, it's kind of overdue with one of those three guys, Golovkin, Jamal Charlo, and Demetrius Andre, that one of those, like two of those three guys have to fight each other somehow next year. That just got to happen. You know, with Canelo Alvarez, he's, you know, now a quote unquote unified champion at super middleweight, is a Ring Magazine super middleweight champion. And, you know, we basically may see a what's next for him. You know, a lot of people felt like he could have potentially fought Caleb Plant, but Caleb Plant, it was apparently on CP time or whatnot. So that fight didn't happen. And now you have Caleb Plant fighting Caleb Truax on January 30th. So, you know, that's more than 5 weeks from now. So we're trying to see what would be next for Canelo Alvarez. I don't know if he's going to stay there super middleweight. And I really doubt that he's going to fight like a Abney Yildirim, who probably will cry like, oh, man, I've been the mandatory. I should have had my shot. What's going on and everything like that. But I just don't see Canelo Alvarez fighting Abney Yildirim next or at any particular point. So I have to see what his next move will be. It probably could be Billy Joe Saunders, given that, you know, we would have fought Saunders in May, you know, if we didn't have this whole pandemic thing going on. So Billy Joe Saunders might be next in line for him in another unification at super middleweight.
I wish, but I got a funny feeling. I can't even say I got a funny feeling. Billy gonna fuck it up. He gonna do something.
He gonna do something stupid
out of it. He always screw himself out of big fights. I'm still mad at Billy Joe for not taking the Demetrius Andrade fight. I'm still mad about that. I was so stoked about that fight, man. I was ready to cover it and everything. That was one of the only fights at that time that I was so happy about covering because, you know, at that time it was the beef with AJ and Wilder and who ducking who, and everybody really wasn't trying to fight nobody in all the weight divisions. And we finally got two guys with a decent enough name that was like, F that, we finna get in and we gonna fight each other. And I was like, finally, you know, we finally finna get two decent names that's finna get in the ring. They both got belts. We finna see something. Like, I was juiced. I mean, like, I was happy. And then Billy just had to ruin it, huh, Billy?
Yeah.
I mean, that was for boxing, bro. That wasn't just for me. I was gonna do something for boxing, and that would have also catapulted both of these dudes. Whoever would have won or lost, depending on how the fight would have went, there's no telling where their career would have went.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been a career-defining win for, you know, either one of those guys, and, you know, for Saunders to mess that up, that just, you know, nullified or stalled both fighters' careers for a little bit, particularly with, you know, Demetrius Andrade, because Andrade hasn't really been able to, you know, do much since, you know, while Billy Joe Saunders was able to, you know, kind of get away with that, have his belt stripped at middleweight, goes up to super middleweight, and within like 1 or 2 fights is the WBO super middleweight champ. So he was able to catch a break on that. But yeah, with Canelo Alvarez, man, I just see that, you know, it could be a potential fight with Billy Joe Saunders, and he might get bailed out here in this sense that, you know, he's able to position himself for a fight against Canelo Alvarez without really, you know, kind of like doing that much ever since he initially won the WBO middleweight title. So that's kind of like how, you know, the breaks are sometimes with that. So did have that. You know, I really wasn't all too much interested in the undercard of that particular fight card. I was watching the Showtime card, And you had my guy there, Gary and Antonio Russell in the first fight of that Showtime card, and he was there battling against a veteran in Juan Carlos Payano, and the whole thing was with all that inside grappling and getting on the inside two southpaws, and they said it was due to a headbutt that the fight was stopped, and then the next fight, man, Bruce Cenas was about to get it in on Chris Van Heerden, and then
I didn't even not to cut you off, but yeah, tell me about that because I was wondering, like I was hearing about it, but I didn't get to watch it because I was trying to cover the Canelo card. But yeah, what was up with that Boots fight? Holla at your boy.
Ooh, man, like Boots was about to get it in on Chris Van Heerden, and then like they clashed heads. Like the forehead of Chris Van Heerden like hit Boots' cheekbone, and Chris Van Heerden's forehead almost like split open, son. Like it was like gruesome. Like man, like it was kind of shocking that he didn't like lose his equilibrium or something after he got
didn't
hit.
pass out or nothing. He just kind of.
Nah, he just kind of like it stopped and he was able to walk to the corner and then they got a lot of blood like wiped off and then tried to stop it, but it was a real open cut there. But yeah, like, and this was for the vacant IBO title and whatnot, so that pretty much stopped. So I mean, you kind of think about it. Boots Ennis was you know preparing to get in the ring there initially against Thomas Delorme, and then Delorme gets COVID, so he's out. So they had tried to, fit someone in there for Boots to fight, and it was Chris Van Heerden. And here you are, once the first round goes through, clash of heads, and bam, and that's it. So you got to see what's going to be next for Boots in this here. It's probably still going to be for that IBO title, but it might still possibly be against Thomas Delorme if he's recovered fully from COVID-19. So Chris Van Heerden will probably be out of the equation in that instance. But yeah, you had that, and then that main event, it was yeah, the main event, yo. I was like, wait a minute, hold up, cuz. Like Emmanuel Rodriguez, like it just looked like Rodriguez was handling business, and Raymar Gaballo wasn't really doing jack the whole fight. He was only like landing about one or two punches out of everything that he was throwing, and two of the three judges like gave him the fight, and it was like a significant, a significant card for Garballo, and I was like, "What?" Like I couldn't believe it, man. Like they were talking about this was worse than what was it that the Royal thing? I think it was the TMT guy that said was it super featherweight or something like that? Yeah, like it was worse than that.
Yeah, these judges this year been something else, man. I don't know where they find these judges at, but these judges, man, been coming out the woodwork with these crappy scores and all that, bro. I don't even understand what's going on with these judges nowadays. But
yeah, like one judge that had it for Rodriguez had 10 rounds to 2 for Rodriguez, and the two other judges had it for Ray Garballo. And one of them was 8-4, and the other one was 7-5. And I was like, "What?" That was just crazy, son. That was mad crazy.
See, that's that BS, man. Sorry. So, how do you feel about the IBO organization, sanctioning body, as being one of the most unrecognized sanctioning bodies in boxing? But at the same time, some of the greatest of all time have held their belt, their title, as a Floyd Mayweather and a Lennox Lewis, to name some familiar names for people that have held the IBO belt. And the IBO is the only sanctioning body that got one belt. Like you win the IBO belt, you are the world champion. That's it. There ain't no silver, no regular, no interim. You get the IBO belt, you the champ. Period. So how do you feel about them? Kind of in the sense they're not really recognized, but at the same time, people are still fighting for it. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, you have the thing there, like you said, with Anthony Joshua, man, and that held the heavyweight, that holds the heavyweight title there with the IBO. But like you said, they are kind of like they have like one of the most comprehensive ranking systems out there, man. Like you could go into their ranking thing right now, and they show it like from number 1 to number 100, and I was like, yo, and this is for like pretty much like every weight class. So it's a very detailed ranking system that they have, and you really don't see that from these other boxing organizations. Like you can have it, it don't matter if it's WBO, WBC, or whatever it is with those four other sanctioning bodies. They could set up a fight with a world champion, and it could be a voluntary defense, and the challenger isn't initially on the rankings yet, but all of a sudden, no, he magically appears at like number 5. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, come on, man. Like that ain't how it's supposed to be going. But yeah, with the IBO, they have like a serious ranking system that I think that these other organizations should adopt. It's almost like how they have rankings for the Premier Boxing Organization site. Mm-hmm. They have like rankings like that where they show like, okay, they have wins against guys that are within the top 50 or within the top 25 or within the top 10 and stuff like that. And then if it's like outside the top 100, then it doesn't get counted pretty much with as much weight as other fights that fighter has. So it's pretty much similar. So I think that's kind of like a better way to gauge who these guys are fighting, because it's like, okay, we know who the guy's fighting, who that guy has fought before those fights and everything like that, instead of just saying, hey, they put this guy at like number 2 in the rankings, but he's only fought guys that, are a combined record of 50 and 152 or something. Like, come on, man. Like that stuff it don't work. But like for those that haven't like checked out the IBO and how they do their rankings, y'all go on their site, and I'm telling you, they got it for every weight class, like from heavyweight on down to minimum weight. They have it to where it's like, yo, how do you have like 100 fighters that are ranked? It's crazy, but it's detailed. Yeah, I think that's how it should be handled. But yeah, IBO, even though like a good number of people may not view or recognize the IBO as much as the other 4 current sanctioning bodies, their ranking system is very comprehensive, and is kind of like should be viewed with more weight because of how they handle their ranking system.
I agree, because if you have their title, I mean, the fact that when I found out that they're the only ones that just like they have 1 belt, like I would want to have that belt.
Yeah.
Just because I get that belt, I'm a world champion. Yep. And the way that they do, like you remember when it's funny because now that they're saying Canelo is he's an official 4-division world champion. It's like the politics of boxing. It flips so much. It's the same thing with Teofimo and Devin Haney in that situation. Right. I'll allude to where I'll connect the dots to you in a second. Because when Canelo beat Kovalev, he was a 4th-division world champion. That's what he was when he beat Kovalev. And then all of a sudden, when he's fighting this fight, now he's only a 3-division world champion. Now he's an official 4-division world champion. And I'm like, so what was it when he beat Kovalev? What is that? I don't.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand it. Like
what?
What is it? I guess did they count the fight against Rocky Fielding as a world championship fight, or because Rocky Fielding was the WBO
like
I
a
mean,
regular.
the WBA regular champ.
Yeah, he was a regular or something like that. So I'm like I was just confused when they said that. When I heard them say that, he's an official 4 division. Like, wait a minute, I thought because thought I was going to say he's 5 division, and then I was like, wait a minute, he already beat Rocky Fielding in 68, so he's not a 5. He's already a 4 division. I was just feeling like he was just adding some more. He was stat packing his resume, being a lineal and all that shit. And I'm like, for them to say now he's an official 4 division and 6-time world champion and all that shit, I'm like, I'm confused. It's like the politics of boxing change on the turn of a dime so much, just like how they did with Teofimo and Devin Haney. Like when first it was Devin Haney, he got a world title in the WBC, and then all of a sudden, you got to have all the world titles to be undisputed, and then you do the Teofimo Lomachenko fight for all the marbles, and it's like, well, where does that leave Devin Haney? How is he undisputed if Devin Haney has a belt? Ain't the undisputed got all the belts? Ain't he the guy that got everything and everything go through him? It's like they just changing the dynamics of how boxing is really ran now. It's not the same, and it's very confusing.
And that was crazy.
IBO. That's why I like the IBO.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was crazy there because the zone, you're gonna have the commentators there interviewing Teofimo Lopez, and you're going to regard Teofimo Lopez as an undisputed champion when like last month you had Haney on your network, man. Like, come on. How does that work?
How does that work, man? How do y'all do that? And it's like, do you realize like people like us, we listen to y'all when y'all talk. So when y'all say something like a month ago, and then next thing you know, a month later, y'all say the complete polar opposite. It's like, wait a minute, hold up. You do realize I gotta report the shit that y'all are talking about. And y'all backpedaling on some shit now. Like, this shit don't make sense. So I don't know what's going on. I'm surprised that Teofimo was even speaking on the DAZN platform, being the top ranked fighter personally. But when Errol Spence came on and was speaking, I was like, all right, well, shit. I guess everybody getting that DAZN limelight.
Yeah, because I think with DAZN they kind of like open themselves up as far as like boxers and boxing is concerned because they've interviewed multiple fighters regardless of who or what promotional banner they're under. So I think that they're just, trying to open things up for, conversation across the board in the sport. So they invite like anybody. They can invite the Russells or, Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence or, anybody. Because they're just, trying to big up the entire sport. Doesn't matter if they're, with Matchroom or not with Matchroom or anything like that. So I think that's, kind of like good that they give everybody an opportunity to speak on things. But, outside of that, they still handle their fights with who's, their form. You know what I mean? But, yeah, that thing with Canelo, too, with Callum Smith, it's going to be interesting to see what's next because, like I said, I mean, he was with DAZN for a good little bit. Now he's a free agent. So, DAZN would probably want him to, fight someone like a Billy Joe Saunders or, a Gennady Golovkin and things like that, and not necessarily a Caleb Plant unless they could bring Caleb Plant over and have that fight be, on DAZN and kind of like buy the rights to it. But that's going to be a good amount of money. They might get outbid. I think
a Caleb Plant fight have a better chance of happening before anything else with the Billy Joe Saunders fight or a Triple G fight. I think now, don't get me wrong, I say Billy Joe Saunders because Billy Joe Saunders is gonna fuck it up. But I think with the Triple G situation, I think Canelo don't want a third Triple G fight. Not on some he's scared of Triple G. I just think he just feel like I beat him. Like I beat him twice. Like I don't care to fight him a third time. Like it's nothing in his, and honestly, I feel like it's nothing for him to prove as far as fighting Triple G a third time. Right. I just like what I saw with Triple G look better, but I don't still want to see no third Triple G Canelo fight. But I feel like it's better as far as Canelo's legacy in the sense, yeah, for him to fight Khalid Plant. Now I will say this. I will go on record and you hear it first on the source, and I'll say this on your channel first. If Triple G goes as far as to beat like Jamal Charlo, or he goes as far as to beat like a Bubu Andrade and a Jamal Charlo in like a back-to-back fashion, and in a good fashion, not in like it's just like some maul and brawl type, and just like, I don't know, like you really got dogged in that, but you pulled it out type. But if he goes in there and he makes it a real, like he show like I'm still Triple G, I still beat on motherfuckers out here, and he does that, I want a third fight. If he does that to those two opponents, I want a third fight. But until that happens, which of course I highly doubt it will happen, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
Right. And the thing about it is with Golovkin and him possibly fighting one of those other two fighters, that would be more of a career defining fight for him. And it would kind of lean to me towards how Manny Pacquiao was able to get a win over Keith Thurman last year. Like Keith Thurman was the younger guy, the one that, had the world title, WBA world title, did hold the WBC title too at one point. And, Manny Pacquiao was there, 41 years old or 40 years old. And he was able to, hang with Keith Thurman and, get the win there in a very good fight. So Gennady Golovkin, I'm like, why won't Gennady Golovkin fight either one of those guys to kind of like have himself? If people really want to view Gennady Golovkin as one of these top middleweights all time and everything, and give him like so-called God status, like a lot of people like to give him, have him fight one of those guys. You like. I just don't understand why people want to bring up this whole thing about 21 defenses of a middleweight title and this and that, when his notable fights were Canelo Alvarez, Daniel Jacobs, Sergey Derevyanchenko. And that's it. Nobody else.
Nobody else.
So 21 defenses, but 3 fighters that were anywhere, that were kind of like notable, or, that you kind of like said, okay, this guy had a shot because he was able to do something up to the point of fighting Gennady Golovkin. Like, shout out to Willie Monroe Jr. He did his thing for a little bit, but he just, couldn't, hang there for enough rounds against Gennady Golovkin, man. And he kind of like said it was a learning experience at that particular time when he fought Golovkin. But like, he's been, like I've said before, he's had one of the best matchmakers in boxing history, because they didn't really match him up against guys that either were going to like either be there in his face and not be afraid of him, or kind of like, give him different looks or have him be frustrated because their defensive skill was superior. So he was like matched up very well, while he was, under K2 and everything like that. So if I just want to see him against one of those guys, Jamal Charlo or Demetrius Andrade, in a unification. If not, then what's the point?
Yeah, it's like who? And the thing is, as we say for Canelo, same thing go for Triple G. Who else is there for him? Who else is there for Triple G right now, for real? Top class at 160. Really?
Right.
Like, how many big names is there at 160 for Triple G to really fight? Like, what are you campaigning at 160? The only man that's at 160 that everybody is looming about aside from Triple G is who? Jamal fucking Charlo.
Yep. And the thing is, like I said in the video the other day, I said, when you, after that second Canelo Golovkin fight, even though like Canelo said he didn't want any parts to, deal with, Gennady Golovkin, people were still talking about saying, hey, maybe we could have this third fight. So Golovkin probably wanted that go the route of being the WBC mandatory or something like that, right? So he was thinking about that, but before he thought about that, that's when Jamal Charlo moved up and fought George Sebastian Healing. And when he beat Healing, he became that mandatory contender. And Golovkin didn't want to. He didn't want to fight Jamal Charlo then. So I was like, man, if he didn't want to fight him then, I just don't see him fighting him now. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree because Jamal is a lot better now. He's not overly aggressive. I saw
Right.
when I saw and I'm judging him based on the fight with Deverenchenko. Okay, from the last two fights, when he showed in Deverenchenko is that he picking his shots a lot better, and when he hits you, he hitting you with thudding hard shots. He and he's hitting you to the point where you know, like, you do not want to trade with this motherfucker right here. You don't want to do that. So I don't see Triple G like how he was willing to trade in this recent fight. I don't think he's going to be that willing to trade with Jamal. Now, what I think would beat Jamal with Triple G's trump card, and you should already know what I'm going to say, what his trump card is. It's jab. That's his trump card in that fight. It's his jab. Because Jamal will not get off the fucking line to save his life.
Right.
He won't do it. So, and with Triple G's thudding hard jab, and with Jamal's unstableness mentally, he could get to him just with his jab. Just with his jab, he'll get to him because he'll end up winging, dinging, and throwing unnecessary punches. And I think Triple G, with his newly found head movement, he can get away from that. But that's only if he could deal with Jamal's punching power.
Right.
That's only if he could deal with that. And that's the cool part about it is Jamal and Triple G is actually, in my opinion, a 50-50 fight. But because it's all on who gonna be able to stand up to who. How is Triple G gonna deal with Jamal power? How is Jamal gonna be able to deal with Triple G's power and his accuracy? Because Triple G accurate. That's what he do. He gonna hit you. No matter who he fight, he gonna hit you. And he gonna hit you hard. So how is Jamal gonna deal with somebody hitting him hard? How is he gonna be able to deal with that? And not just hitting him up top too. Triple G gonna go to the body on you too. How you gonna deal with that? You know, so it leaves a window of opportunity for both of them. But I think the only person that's willing to take that risk is Jamal Charlo. I don't think Triple G is willing to take that risk. I think he's more worried about Jamal catching him with something and he not being able to take it. And I don't think he wants
broken down eventually. Yeah,
he don't want that. I understand that from Triple G's perspective. I get it, but you at 160, and that's the guy at 160, and you got and Triple G he just got the IBF, right? Am I correct?
Yep.
So I mean, you got one of them belts. So and you got a belt that them PBC boys be wanting. So, and his brother just unified the division. You know what I'm saying? And he on the verge of one belt from being undisputed. So. And them brothers are very competitive between the two. So, behind the scenes, he talking that shit.
Yep. Yeah, they just be chopping at each other, man. Be like, look, man, I was able to do this at 154 pounds. Like, I don't think Jamal, he didn't unify. He wasn't able to unify. He just had the IBF. And then after, beating J-Rock, he moved up. So he didn't get a chance to unify. And it might be like all you got to do is just have Jamel Charlo have either one fight for the undisputed, or I would kind of like say if he's able to fight and beat Jared Hurd, like his resume at 154 pounds would be like one of the best ones that's been at that weight class, for some time. And 154 really didn't have that much history, as it is. You know what I mean? Other than having, like Oscar hold the title at one point, then
Winky Wright.
Winky Wright after Shane Mosley got it from Oscar,
Right. So, yeah, it ain't that rich. I think Jared Hurd should go to 60. I think you need to leave 54 alone and then going up to 160 and get that 60 smoke.
Yeah, I see that. Well, there was a question here. I mean, what is this? If you pay a pay-per-view, don't you expect like a better fight? Like, I don't know, like what you mean by that as far as like from a competitive standpoint.
What pay-per-view are you talking about per se too?
Well, apparently there was one thing as far as like maybe this Canelo Callum-Smith fight was like kind of like a pay-per-view in some sense. but I'm not, sure about it. But even with that, just in general, with pay-per-views and main events, like I've kind of like had this conversation with one other person that a lot of times in these like pay-per-views and a good number of them, the main events themselves haven't really kind of like lived up to the hype, so to speak, or they have like an expectation like the favorite is a considerable favorite. It's not like a closer to a 50-50 type of fight. So, but I mean, it is what it is in a lot of those cases. So if you are not really interested in that pay-per-view because it doesn't feel like you expect a close fight or you don't know who's going to win, then you just don't buy the pay-per-view. But I just feel like with the series of pay-per-views that we've had this year, it kind of like leaned toward that. Just going from backwards, like Spence Garcia. Like for me, I really didn't expect Danny Garcia to kind of like do much against Errol Spence because I really don't put Danny Garcia up into that particular level. Even though
Danny could
like
have won that fight, Source. Danny
yeah,
could have won that fight, Source. And I know
no,
you saw the spots where he could have caught Errol when he was throwing
yeah,
those nice overhand rights, and he could have followed up. And if he would have followed up, he could have made that fight a totally different fight.
he
Danny
could have.
Garcia
He
could have
didn't.
won that fight. He could have. He could have.
He could have, but he didn't. And the thing about it is that he like allowed Spence to go off on him, basically do use his offensive skill without much of an answer from Danny Garcia. It's almost like the whole thing with respect too. Like it was like Errol Spence didn't really respect Danny Garcia, and just Danny Garcia just stood there. You saw Angel Garcia like in between rounds, like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you got to be more active. You can't just sit there waiting on a counter punch. Even though Danny's a counter punch, you can't wait on a counter punch. You got to be able to set him up, give him different looks, make him, overcommit, force him to overcommit. And Danny did not do that at all. And that was just, you know, I just felt like it was something that I completely expected. Whether Errol Spence was in a questionable condition or not, like if everything was a clean slate, it was just as what I expected. You know what I mean? Yeah. He says, somebody, yes sir, says that Errol gets a piss beaten out of him by Canelo. He said it would be worse than Mikey versus Spence. Now, I've said that it could potentially be the next super fight in the sport of boxing, Canelo versus Spence. But by the time Spence gets up to that point, I don't even think Canelo would be able to make 160. I really don't. Spence is talking about, hey man, I got about two or three more fights, man, before I go up to 154, man, or something like that, right? So he could have his fights against, Manny Pacquiao, possibly have a rematch with Sean Porter, and then finally have that thing with Crawford, and then move up to 154, and he really can't do much at 154 because you still got Jermell Charlo there. So unless if Jermell Charlo moves up to 160 and Jamal Charlo moves up to 168, you're not going to have, Errol Spence going up to 154. And there was like talks at the beginning of this year that Errol Spence considered moving up to 154 to fight J-Rock. And I'm like, nah, he isn't going to do that at this particular point. Even where he's had those instances where he's walked around at up to 189 pounds before his fight against Sean Porter, and now being at around 168, even then, you still got a considerable amount of things that you got to do. So, and he's not one that is, his mobility still is kind of like very economical when it comes to his foot movement. So he wants to walk down his opponents. You know what I mean? Um, Now here's one thing here. He needs to cut the bull and fight Crawford. He talks about wanting Canelo more than he does Bud. Of course, because Canelo is the money man. That's why.
And he already told y'all what he was gonna do. I don't know why when people talk, y'all don't listen. He already said it right in front of Crawford and Bob Arum on film. He
And
told y'all.
yeah, and here's the thing. Like he already had the plan, but here's the thing that really bothers me about that is that Bud Crawford was doing it in a reactionary move. And I say that because years, pretty much, what was it, like 2016 going into 2017, the talk with Terrence Crawford was for him to eventually fight Manny Pacquiao. That's what they were building towards. Crawford versus Pacquiao. They were both there under top rank. So that was getting closer and closer to that particular point until Manny Pacquiao went ahead and fought Jeff Horn, or like Stephen A. Smith loves to say on multiple occasions, Joe Horn, right? Okay. That fight happened. Jeff Horn gets the win and takes the WBO title from Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao doesn't have an immediate rematch, right? Okay. That's kind of strange. Terrence Crawford eventually becomes the, undisputed super lightweight champion. He goes to move up, right? His first fight was going to be against Jeff Horn for that WBO welterweight title. Bob Arum was trying to make a doubleheader with Horn against Crawford, and then Pacquiao against, I think it was like Mike Alvarez or something like that. When Pacquiao kind of backed out of that, that's when things started to go downhill as far as like potentially making a Crawford versus Pacquiao. So then Pacquiao ends up fighting Matisse for that WBA regular belt. And then after that, he's like, you know what? Peace out. I'm going to PBC. And when he did that, soon around that same time that Crawford re-signed with Top Rank, that's when the energy changed. And that's when they started to direct that whole thing towards Errol Spence. So, hey, if Crawford couldn't get Pacquiao, he would have to try to get the next best thing at welterweight, which was Errol Spence. So there you have it, So eventually we will get that fight, but like a lot of people got to be real careful about this whole thing about energy, talking about ducking one way or the other, because there was one intent, the original intent for Crawford was to fight Manny Pacquiao. And when that fell through, he had to go to a plan B.
And I think they still trying to use Manny Pacquiao to get a fight. I think Pacquiao might fight Spence before Crawford. How would you feel with that being said if Spence still gets the fight before Crawford does?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at it. And the funny thing about it is that, I mean, being straightforward, you had the fight with Crawford and Brook, and they were talking about, we could have had a fight with Manny Pacquiao. We were trying to build it up to have it over in Saudi Arabia. But with COVID, it fell through. So we're going to pursue it once again in April. We're going to see if we could have Manny Pacquiao step in the ring against Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford could beat Errol Spence and Danny Garcia in the same night. I'm like, come on, man. You got to stop with all that. Just stop it. Stop it. So after all of that, we kind of heard what Bob Arum was talking about, like losing money with Terrence Crawford. I'm like, okay, cool. So are y'all willing to go ahead with trying to make that fight with Manny Pacquiao or not? I don't think so. And I said it when I was talking with Bomac. I'm like, yo, y'all need to make some moves in order to get out of that contract. I don't care if it ends in October of 2021. You need to pull a Canelo Alvarez and become a free agent or buy yourself out of the contract or something.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like it's better to be a free agent once you become an established boxer. I repeat, I feel it's better for you to be a free agent when you are an established boxer. I feel like it's cool in the beginning to get with a promoter to build your name up and all that. But once you learn the game, because that's how you got to learn the game. It's
Mhm.
you learn it faster. So you learn the game, you learn what you learn, and then once you learn what you need to learn, you get out. And
Yep.
then you can dictate the pace and how your career go. You learn that from watching who? Floyd Mayweather. That's what he did. So
Yep.
I mean, it's better to be a free agent when you an established boxer than coming out the gate, because it's you got to work twice as hard, and then you are the one competing with these promoters. So it's better to try to link up with one of them that you feel comfortable with, and go from there. A lot of people are even saying that Al Heyman, he does look out for his fighters.
Yeah.
And you earn with Hearn, but Hearn gonna put you in there with anybody. He don't give a damn.
Hmm.
But you gonna earn though. You gonna get it though. You gonna earn with Hearn, but
Yeah, yeah, you do earn with Hearn, but I think the thing with Al Heyman, and I'm not necessarily sure with this, is that he gives like these fighters the opportunity to like have some type of part ownership in some of these things, and you kind of like see in some of these fights, with these guys that they have their own like promotional things tied to it, like Bomb Squad Promotions, or something with Errol Spence, or something with Jamel or Jamal Charlo. But if they have an instance where they could put like a partial investment towards the overall event, so that they get more of a portion of the proceeds back, then yeah, I could understand that. If you want to, go with Al Heyman in reference to that. So if he gives you that type of opportunity, then hey, I have no issues with that. But this whole thing with Spence and Crawford, it's going to be something. We can't. I just feel like it should happen next year. I mean, even though I've told Coach Bomac, that it may end up being for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world, this thing got to happen like sooner, rather than later. We can't like wait until like a 2022 for this, fight to happen. I mean, like person said on here, it's just business, and yeah, Spence does have the upper hand because he has the fighters that are lined up for him to fight that build up his resume, and Crawford doesn't have that. So that's why I said like Crawford, he should, like, he got to find a way, like, fight Sean Porter, man. Like Porter wants that fight. He wants that fight more than anything else. Like he said, yeah, I'm a the WBC number one contender, but I'm also number one in WBO. And people have already seen me in Spence fight. They haven't seen me in Crawford fight. So why not, make that happen? I'm like, I have absolutely zero issues with that. I don't. You know, I'd rather see that first. I'd rather see that than see Crawford fighting some other guy that Aaron will probably bring out of nowhere. But I just feel like Crawford is just buy himself out of that contract. Like if he's getting $4 million to fight Kell Brook, how much could it take for him to get out of a contract?
Good question. Good question. I think he should be a free agent. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a Sean Porter fight. I wouldn't mind at all. I'd actually pay to see it. If it happened that way, I would still pay to see that fight because it's going to be a dog fight. And how would he deal with somebody that has that type of style, that type of aggression? Just how would he deal with that? Because you're not going to see that again. Okay, Sean Porter is literally 1 in a million, win, lose, or draw. You're only going to see a guy like him once. So in your career and in a lifetime. So we're blessed to be able to say, years to come, we're gonna say Sean Porter was that dog. So I don't know how he'll be able to deal with it. I still think he'll pull it out. I think he'll probably pull it out by his boxing prowess. I don't see him stopping Sean Porter. But the thing is, if he stops Sean Porter, what would that say? Then what? Because he stopped everybody he fought at welterweight. But if he stopped Sean Porter, then what does that say? Then what?
Like, who has stopped Sean Porter? Nobody. Nobody has been able to do that. And he's fought pretty much like everybody out there in the welterweight division, or at least everybody that's pretty much had a name in the welterweight division. And, he's been knocked down twice, once by Broner where he got caught. And then the thing there with Errol Spence, but he's never been stopped. So, that would be a definite feather in the cap for Terrence Crawford if he's able to pull that off there. Just had like one comment there. Oh, now that he don't have a belt, of course he wants it. But I like to see it too, and I think Porter's earned it. Well, here's the thing though, right? Like I was talking about with Terrence Crawford's situation when he was moving up to welterweight, he could have had that option to fight for the vacant WBC welterweight title. And he could have fought Sean Porter at that time. They didn't do anything to make that happen because he's like, hey, you're the undisputed champ. You could basically have the option to fight for any belt or be the mandatory for any belt that's available. But Top Rank had that plan for him to fight for the WBO title right after he announced that he was going to move up. So he could have had that option to say, hey, you know what? Let me kind of like put this fight against Jeff Horn over to the side. Let's table that for a little bit. Let's see if we can try to get this fight in with, Sean Porter for that vacant belt. So, this thing about, these other guys that, were world champs and now they want to fight, Terrence Crawford, now they don't have a belt. I'm like, well, when they did have a belt, did you have that option to make the move towards trying to make that fight with one of those guys? I don't know. Like, I really hadn't seen it, So it's one thing when you have, an intent to try to fight somebody, but it's another thing when you're under a business that tells you what moves you're going to make. And you go forward with them. And if you go forward with them, that's cool. But don't have that happen and then say these other guys weren't willing to fight you when you had those opportunities to try to make those fights and basically didn't. So that's pretty much what I say about that. But I've been in over an hour right now. It's almost like 2 a.m. Eastern time. Shout out to DT3. For coming in. Shout out to Mike Grady to, have a couple of comments in. He's been listening off and on or whatever it is after that. But we're going to be back at it 7:30 p.m. Eastern time with the podcast, live on Blog Talk Radio. Hotline is 347-237-5539. We're going to talk about all the action that happened this weekend and kind of like see about, what's up for the next couple of weeks. Because we got like a fairly notable fight coming up at the end of the year with the fight between Ioka and Kosei Tanaka. That's going to be a good little scrap there. And, you also have former champ Masayuki Ito on the 26th fighting as well. But, outside of that, I'm going to run through a few things here for the remainder of the year. And that'll be that. And then we're going to be right back at it to look ahead for that fight between Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. That's going to be a good one though. But thanks for Mike for jumping in. Thanks for DT3 the Boom Man jumping in here.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And thanks Yezer for joining in here live. But yeah, we're gonna be back at it Sunday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, the Boxing Source radio show. Y'all catch it. I thank y'all for taking the time to listen in, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.